Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm FPL Nima and I'm joined by my co-host Clayton at Clates AFC on Twitter. We're here for the full review of the Crystal Palace 1-0 victory at Selhurst Park. Difficult ground to go to, of course. Penalty from Odegaard was the difference in the end. And we're just going to run through our kind of, highlights, lowlights of the match, standout performers, maybe talk about the fact that we used the same system as, the match at home against Forest again. I don't think we necessarily predicted that. There was an outside chance, but I don't think we saw that happening. But yeah, how are you, Clayton? I know that in your instant reaction, I think I was a bit more reserved about my disappointment, but you were very upfront about it.
Yeah, and obviously, I think that's a bit like I should get it out of the way, right? Like, over the moon, we got 6 points. Like, I'm never sad when we win, but I think I'm just at a point now where I just expect more from us. And I don't know, like when that final half an hour was so stressful, and when, to be honest, even though it was stressful, and I was like anxious and stuff, I never actually thought Palace were going to score. I don't know why. So when full time whistle went, I didn't have that massive sigh of relief because I just kind of thought we were going to see it out. But yeah, I mean, shall I talk about it now? I guess I think my thing is, I just feel like people are overblowing this narrative personally on the whole peaking in April sort of thing. So what I think about it is last year we had a plan A which blitzed the league when everyone was fit. When everyone's fit, it beats 19 of the 20 teams, and even City. I think if everyone's fit, I think we do them with last year's system, everyone fit. The reason we didn't win the league for me wasn't plan A became too predictable. For me, it was plan A didn't work when we had injuries, and plan B suffered a little bit. And then I think in April, May, it was more like injuries combined with a bit of like lacking in, I guess, the mental aptitude to kind of see things through. But I firmly believe our strongest 11 last year's system would have got the job done. And so for me, going into this season, I wanted a plan B and C in a handful of games. I was comfortable with I still feel last year's system would have been good enough to blitz most teams this year. And so where I'm coming from is I think people are really overblowing this whole, yeah, no, it's fine. You don't need to be kind of going full tilt now. Like, it's about peaking in April, which I get, but we're nowhere near full tilt. Like, the best analogy was I was speaking to Mike after the game, and he said it's about purring in April, and I went, yeah, but we're not even meowing right now. Like and I think that's how I kind of feel. I feel like this level of squad that we've got is, we've played Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace. Like, we should have shown more, in my opinion, while still expecting that, of course, there'll be teething issues. We're trying new things, but I still think it's okay to say I've expected more from the two fixtures we've had, and I'm a bit disappointed so far. Flip side, 6 points on the board, I get it, but I just think we're treading on fine lines here if we keep making up the whole, well, it's not making up, if we're going down the whole narrative of it's fine, like, you got to just win ugly until we peak. Like, I'm not fully bought into that personally.
That's fair. I think what I would say about Palace, their stadium, is I think I saw something like in their last 10 home games, the only other game they've lost at home was 1-0 against Man City, that Man City won with a penalty as well. So I do think that like it is a difficult ground to go to. I'd say that they have one of the loudest home support despite having one of the smaller stadiums in the league. So it is an intimidating place. And I think, I'd like to think that if those 2 yellow cards didn't happen the way they did, like it would have been a different game. So I do wonder if, we would have seen more after we were 1-up if obviously like Tomiyasu got a yellow, and I think that home crowd had a lot to do with it personally. So
100%, yeah.
like we would do the same, right? The Emirates, but like when the time wasting began, like, I could see them more like tapping their wrists and moaning and booing about time wasting when Havertz and Partey were throwing the ball around, wasting 24 seconds or whatever it was. And then eventually poor Tomiyasu with his 8 seconds got booked, obviously. So it was like a team booking that he just ended up being the naughty kid at the end who got the full blame.
You seen the stat doing the rounds about that in terms of other passages that
Yeah, so obviously we had another throw in that took us like 44 seconds and we didn't get booked for that.
So Palace had one more than that as well. Like not just one, there was
I think there
two.
was like 4 or 5 throw-in
Oh wow.
routines that were over the length of that 24 seconds. So there was loads between 22 and 26 seconds, right? And no one knows. Like, so for me, I have no doubt that obviously the home crowd has something to do with it. And I think it's the game state. I think because we just gone one up and then the fans are booing like that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah.
Sucked into that and does what he does. Now that I don't mind, that yellow card, like I get it. Like they're gonna give more of them for time wasting the season, but it'll be good to know like what's the timing. Like, do we get 20 seconds, 30 seconds for throws? Like, what's the rule? Because how's a 45-second one later in the game not getting booked, but the 24 seconds is? So I'd love to know more about what that is. Like what's the threshold? Like no one knows, right?
Yeah.
But the other side of it, the second yellow he got, I think that's the other one I want to look at. Because obviously he doesn't appear to be holding Ayu's shirt, Tomiyasu, when he gets his second yellow. And not, you know,
Mate,
like
that second one's a fucking disgrace. Like,
yeah, like I see it as a foul, right? But that is not a yellow card. And I know they can't review a second yellow, but like when it's two soft yellows in that sense, surely there should be like, you know, taking a team down to 10 men is one of the worst things you can do to a team in this league. So surely there should be some power to look back and go, oh, you know what? Like that's maybe a bit harsh for a second yellow. Like
I just think in isolation, it's not a yellow. Like, I completely agree with what you're saying, but it shouldn't even need to get to that. Like, you shouldn't even need to get to the, excuse me, the severity of the punishment. It's just in isolation. It barely touched him. Like, that's not a. I don't even think
that's
it's
what's
a foul.
frustrating. But I think what gets more frustrating is obviously later in the game, or I think it was before even maybe. Obviously, Ayu was already on a booking himself, and
Yeah.
he's got one hand around the neck of Saka's shirt, one hand around the bottom of Saka's shirt. He's pulling him from two parts of his shirt down to the floor.
Yeah.
And that didn't even get called a foul, I don't think, let alone a yellow card.
No,
So
I
it's
think
like,
you're right. I don't think it did.
so when I kind of look at that and I'm like, wait a second, like if his second yellow offense was worse than Tomiyasu's and he'd been carded the same way at the time, they would have been the ones on 10 men with us at 1-0 and like the game would be different. That's why I don't want to look too much into how we had to hold on. But what I did enjoy, I think my big positive takeaway from this was I really liked just kind of the way we dug in. Like even when Gabriel subbed on, he was celebrating like the defensive actions, trying to clatter into people, you know, like
these guys love that shit, don't they?
They
I remember
love
the Villa away one. Was it last year or year before?
What, with all the chest bumps and stuff?
Yeah, it was when Holding came on and did the 5-2-3, 5-3-2, whatever. And yeah, I remember that one. It was proper backs against the wall. That they do as much as this team has got loads of flair and guile. There's something about this like gritty, determined side of them that they've got as well. But yeah, I should have added. Like, I don't know if it came across wrong. Oh, no complaints about the final half hour. Like once you're down to 10 men, you have to see it out that way. And like I know I was listening to Arseblog and James was saying that he was a bit disappointed that we didn't have more of the ball in that final half hour. I wasn't like that. Like I think once you're down to 10 men, like I kind of accepted it was going to be backs against the wall. My disappointment is I feel like we have a lot of in the limited amount of minutes I've seen in the new system. I feel like we have a lot of ball domination without any kind of intricacy going forward. And it's like chance creation just feels a little bit stifled, I'd say. And that's why I'm disappointed so
I just want to add to that, because one thing that I thought was quite interesting is I do think that like what we're not really like we've seen a lot of reliance on going down the right hand side with Saka still at the moment.
Mate, it was ridiculous on Monday in particular. It was nuts.
Right.
I think
and he seemed to be being asked to do everything. Like all the attacks seem to build from there. And you see Martinelli arriving in those spaces as well, just to try and get involved in the play. I think for me, the reason I mentioned this is obviously last year, Martinelli had Xhaka and Zinchenko behind him in that triangle.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, that's obviously changed. And I think a lot of these players, whether it's Rice, Havertz, you know, Eddie up top, these are like new relationships. And although I think we've not looked as fluid, and you're right about that, I think I saw something like a quote from Arteta. I'm trying to find the quote. But he was basically emphasizing the relationships that are still developing between these players. So we know he's all about the positional play, and like you're not really in a position on the paper. You're just playing positionally with others in a like it's all little trios all across the pitch. And I do think once some of these new signings have had time to kind of, you know, Rice played like I think I said in the instant reaction, like obviously it
He
was the
was
same formation.
unbelievable.
Yeah, he was man of the match for sure for me as well. But he obviously played like on the left in the last game, kind of like in a
Yeah,
diamond in midfield. And this game, even though Partey inverted, he seemed to be playing more of a lone six role.
yeah,
So
and he did it
even
well.
within these two games in two different, in the same system in two different games, he's had to adjust his own role too, and he's learning so much. So I do think, and with Havertz, for example, like we just don't find him a lot of the time. Like when
Yeah,
he is in space or makes the runs, and I think the players will, as they build that relationship of chemistry, they'll know where he's going to be and when more often. And then my final point is, I do think the lack of Jesus and Zinchenko and the
that's my biggest
incredible
thing on
qualities they
Havertz.
have, right? Like I think those two are the ones who will make the biggest impact on Havertz's performances,
Yeah,
because
I agree.
he'll be able to play with them at that technical level. But yeah,
Yeah,
obviously he
on
did make that great pass where he found Martinelli free.
Martinelli should have done better there. Yeah,
Yeah, I did think he could have shot first time on his left
with
foot,
his
but
left,
obviously,
right? Agreed.
yeah, but he tried to kind of like run in and find the like shooting lane, praying that the defender would just run past or something, and
Yeah,
ended up getting blocked. But
no, I
so I
agree.
think Havertz has shown little moments, little glimpses. I'll give him a couple of seven out of tens for the last two games. I don't think it's anything like he's not done anything jaw dropping yet. But I just think I just want
No,
to
but
emphasize that kind of building the relationships. I just think one of the reasons we're not purring, I suppose, is I don't think it's the system. I think even if we played our old system without Zinchenko and Jesus in it, I think we'd still lack the purring because I just think the relationships aren't quite there yet.
yeah, I
That's
guess
my
the
view
flip.
on it.
No, no, and I do agree with it. I guess again, the flip side of that is you could argue last season we had new relationships and it just clicked, right? So I think it's one like
Yeah,
Jesus and
Zinchenko
Zinchenko
and
came
Jesus were
in,
both new,
they were
right?
new, right? And like I get stylistically they both came from the same team and stuff, but yeah, I feel like I should clarify. I'm not angry. I'm not like worried. I expected more so far. That's all. And it's a compliment to us as a team where like the level I believe we're at. Because even like people were again pointing at City, right? How they don't really click and stuff until later in the season. But I still think with them, their level of not looking great is still better than this. Like even when they don't look great, like sure they look susceptible, you can play through them. But my annoyance with us right now is the chance creation going forward. And that's where I feel like even City, when they're not at their best, they're still able to create
So
chances. I
what are
feel
your
like
thoughts on Eddie then? Because obviously, from my perspective, I thought he was the best of the
I
front
thought he
three
did
on the
really well.
day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've
same.
seen a lot of narrative about the fact he missed two or three big chances and like he's not good enough for us. But I just find that wild. Like you're not going to find a better backup striker in the league. Like he is what
No.
people think Nico Jackson at Chelsea is. Like Nico Jackson is not going to score more than Nketiah this year, and I'll put myself out on a limb and
Oh,
say that.
big
I'll
claim.
straight up say that. Like Nketiah has 2-3 years of experience in the Premier League. Like this is a guy who is driven, hungry, trains like crazy to try and get his chances. And yeah, I appreciate Jesus will be back soon, and he might have more of a substitute or cup role. But in the meantime, we wouldn't have won this game without him. That's my view. Like he won that
Yeah, he
penalty.
won the pen. Yeah,
It was that clever, quick thinking, that run, and those chances he missed. Yeah, I appreciate they weren't great. Like the dink was maybe a bit audacious to try, but at the end of the day, like he's getting the chances.
yeah,
He's the one who's making those chances be created. Like they wouldn't have I don't know what we would have done if someone else was there. I honestly think I don't see Trossard, for example. Like I love him, but I don't see him doing the same kind of things that Eddie does. They both have very different
they're very
roles, I
different.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought he played well, to be fair, and
I just feel bad
he
for him
should have
because
done
honestly,
better with.
I think he's a really good player. I think he's underrated even amongst fellow Arsenal fans. And so many want him out for stuff like missing chances. But when you got players like, let's say like Salah at Liverpool and like Kane, a lot of these players in the teams where they create a lot of shots, like even, the likes of Aguero at City when he was there, these players were missing hella big
Yeah, it's
chances again,
part
but
of
they
it.
just
Yeah,
had way more chances created. So obviously they ended up getting the goals.
yeah.
But like, if you're in those positions, if you're getting those chances, that can only be a good thing. Like,
Yeah, no, definitely. And like for what like I really rate Eddie. I think I was kind of on him quite early,
to be fair, you've
like 18
actually
months ago and
rated
stuff.
him a long time.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and more from what you just said, the perspective of I don't think you get many people that are happy in air quotes to have as many minutes as he does in a limited amount. that are of that quality that can step in when required, and they're not really going to kick up a fuss. And when he comes in, it's 110% every time. Like, people have their opinions on him in terms of whether he's good enough and stuff, but you can't knock how hard he tries. And I think he is good. I do think sometimes, so what you say about Trossard, yeah, I agree, but they give something different. I think what you lose with Nketiah, you sometimes gain with Trossard in terms of the kind of, I think we look better as a team when someone like Trossard's there, but I think Eddie individually plays so well whenever he is on the pitch, sort of thing. So yeah, on another day he gets 2 goals, right? And we're not talking about it, but
Why don't we do a couple of shout outs? So we're 15 minutes, we'll do a couple of shout outs and then we'll put the team
just quickly
sheet up.
Though, I think just before we do that, I think it's fine to acknowledge that like he should have done better on the dink. Like it's not a criticism of him, it's just something that he should have done better, that's all.
Yeah, and I think that kind of stuff comes with playing minutes, right? Like the more you play regularly with the first team. I think one of the stats we spoke about before was that everyone thought he was like this great sub player, but the stats showed that all the times he came off the bench last year, he didn't score a single goal.
Yeah.
But every game he started, he basically got an attacking return. So whenever the boy starts, he gets an attacking return almost. Like, I don't understand how that's considered a bad thing. Like, he's got limited starts in his career here. And generally, when he starts, he gets some kind of attacking return nearly every game.
Yeah.
And he always feels like he could have had more. So I just find that narrative against him from our own fans wild. Like, I can get it from rival fans who want to laugh at us, but from our own fans to be 2 games in having such reactionary takes and saying we should sell our players, and they're like, Balogun would have scored that. I'm like, well, where is Balogun? Like, where is my man? Like, I love him, but Eddie is way ahead of him in the pecking order. And when Jesus comes back, what, is Balogun going to stay to like literally never get minutes?
No, Balogun's gone. Yeah.
So he's going to be gone. It's going to be an interesting few days in the developments with him, because it does seem that Chelsea is an option there. Cool. Couple of quick shout outs. So Tommy Talks Arsenal. Good to see you, buddy. You've been enjoying the new channel. We've got Mike Halpin, morning. Got Bungle, up the Arsenal, Wagwan Brothers.
I forgot last week. Bungle is top of our mini league. I completely forgot to shout him out. Yeah,
nice, Bungle.
I don't know if he still is, but I've not checked the league. But last week he was, so Bungle gets the shout out for last week.
Nice. So he's actually pulled the trigger on our new third shirt. It's on the way from the UK. We've got Dream Team Professor, afternoon party people. Yes, good to see you. Don Clayton. You're going to start getting very famous after your networking event yesterday. That photo on Twitter, if you guys haven't seen it, have a look at what Clayton was doing, schmoozing people yesterday in the city.
What can I say?
Mike says, we're the Arsenal. We never do it the easy way. Pungle says, we just have to prepare for a madness from roughly 65th to 90th minute weekly, lads. That will help keep all our blood pressure down.
I hope Fulham is I hope we fucking pummel them, man.
I want that to be one of those. Is it Amy Lawrence who writes for like the Guardian? She's sometimes on the Arsenal post. I think she calls it like the fuck off performance. We need like that fuck off performance, like where you come out and you just steamroll an opposition 3-4 5-0.
It does feel like it could be that sort of vibe.
I would love that kind. And obviously Mitrovic, it looks like he's a goner now, so hopefully that helps us from a defensive standpoint. Just a few more and then we'll go to the lineups.
I just checked, by the way. Bungle's still top. So
he's still top.
Go on, Steve-O.
So I think Tommy says Eddie was excellent. On another day, he could have scored 2 goals. Bungle says Eddie is always going to be fighting against the tide. He'll do 3 great things and 1 big chance miss. That will be the entire post-match narrative. Pontus, good to see you. He says, agree on Havertz and finding his teammates. Him and Martinelli showed some interchanging a bit last game, but it will get better. Bungle, 2 goal involvements in 2 games, but criticized across the pods and reactions I've seen. So that's about Eddie. Greetings to Gary, FPL Chess on Twitter, or used to be FPL Chess, but a good old friend of ours. Monek Mabazi, how are you, mate? Well, yeah, I wish I could read that, but
I'm just going to say he said, I'm just going to pretend he's saying it wasn't a red card.
Yeah, like I can't tell if you're saying it was or wasn't a red card, but like, yeah,
let us know.
Yeah, let us know in the chat. I'm not sure I quite got that, but and then Bungle's top of the mini league by 2 points.
Yep.
Cool. All right, let's get the lineup up, and then we talked about certain players already.
What did you think
about Eddie?
I was shocked because also, did you see there were leaks doing the round in the day, right? And so there were a couple like screenshots that were kind of doing the rounds, and that looked like
there was a few different lineups. There was one with Gabriel starting, one without Gabriel starting. There was one of Trossard playing instead of Eddie. There was a lot of fake lineups out there.
Yeah, there were. But yeah, essentially it was just Tommy in for Timber, right? And
Yeah, that was the only change, right? And then obviously
yeah,
there was slight differences in the way that Rice played a bit more centrally, and I did feel I saw Partey at the right hand side a bit more than necessarily
yeah,
just inverting. So there was some slight tweaks there. I'm just trying to think. I do think Ramsdale, whenever he plays away from home, he seems to just love
he loves it, don't
like
he?
the noise of the rival fans at their home stadiums. He definitely, put in a solid performance with David Raya breathing down his neck in that kind of last 30 minutes where we were squeaky bum time trying to hold on for dear life. So
Yeah,
I think
he
that was
did
good to
well.
see.
And even in the final, I think it was literally the final kick of the game when was it Mitchell blasted it over, but the ball came looping in, and Ramsdale was like straight out there, like really brave, and he kind of made himself big, and then Mitchell smacked it over the bar. But in those backs against the wall stuff again, Ramsdale seems to sort of thrive on it, right? It's like the people like Ramsdale, White, Gabriel when he's there, Tommy when he's on the pitch, he seems to love it. Rice seems like the kind of guy that loves it as well. We've got this really beautiful combination of flair and guile, but just that proper. They got them dog in them.
They do. We've definitely
It's a
increased. I think we
dog fight
spoke
out there.
about it in preseason, right? We've really increased the height of the team as well and the physicality. I think with some of the signings, see Havertz and Rice as well. We talked about Eddie. I think Rice, obviously, like I just think come December, I think we're not going to recognize him. Like there is so much learning he's doing right now.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see the outcome of all that. And once he obviously has the other players back, like Jesus and Zinchenko, to play with him. But I am so excited. I think in the first game there was a couple of chances where he could have scored from like outside the box shots, and
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that
There
first
was like a
Rice goal.
volley in the middle as well, wasn't there, where he hit it
Oh,
into the
this game
ground.
as well. Yeah, he lived a bit. Yeah, he kind of skied it, I think.
I
Or
was talking about the
something.
Forest one.
Oh, the
Where,
Forest one. Yeah, I think this one he tried one as well, but skied it or something. But it will come. It will come.
yeah, 100%. But it's just, what I loved seeing from him in this game was more his confidence and his confidence to kind of actually progress the ball. I feel like he's been kind of playing it a bit safe recently and stuff. Whereas this game, I feel like he was maneuvering around quite nicely to find space, and he was distributing. And in duels, he is a joke, man. He's absolutely ridiculous.
Sorry, I keep turning my fan on and off between mute because it gets picked up by the microphone and it's so hot here. But yeah, no, I think one thing I will say about Rice is obviously like from what we'd seen at him at West Ham, he's like a great ball carrier as well. Like he can
Yeah.
get you very far up the pitch. And I think because of the way these two matches have gone, when we were with 11 men in this one at least, we've not had the opportunity to see so much of that yet from him. So I am excited to see how he does against some of the tougher opponents, like a Newcastle, or like a Liverpool or City or Chelsea, who might actually attack you rather than
Oh,
trying
mate,
to
I
sit back and
feel
counter.
so comfortable. Any opponent in the world, like I feel comfortable with Rice just sat there, and I feel like 9 times out of 10 he'll win the ball and like clatter you in the process of doing it. I just feel comfortable having him there. Like it's just this safety blanket sort of vibe, and I think his ability on the ball and relationships is only going to keep improving as well. But like as a starting, but fuck me, man. I remember listening to Arteta's interview when we signed him, and he said we've obviously got this grading system for recruitment, and he came out top on every category. And you can see what he means. Like you can tell psychologically in his interviews, he's got a growth mindset. Like he's a sponge. He just wants to learn. His
Yeah, what he
leadership.
says is very candid. You can see he's really happy to be here. He's very open. Some people were like, he needs to stop giving away our tactics. I'm like, I just think he's passionate and
He's
just talking
passionate,
about
yeah.
loving being here.
And I loved that. I can't remember what happened, but he gave Odegaard a bollocking in like
I
the final
saw,
two.
I saw,
And
I
I
saw
loved
them.
it. I
They
loved
said
that.
they said the reason they held on. I think they said in one of the interviews after they were like, yeah, like they were like all the boys. We were just like constantly shouting at each other and giving each other instructions, and like they were like fully communicating as much as possible in those final 30 minutes to
I
really
remember
hold
what
out.
happened now, actually. Rice headed the ball out as a clearance, and I think Odegaard could have like chased it and didn't. And like Rice was on him, man. It's like he's on our club captain. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I think it's one of those like you're genuinely going to look back in years to come and like what price tag. Genuinely, he's going to be unbelievable for us, man. What
I
do you think
can't
of
wait.
Party in the It wasn't so much an inverted right back role, but you know what I mean.
So yeah, so I think, and I don't know if this theory is right. Obviously, when we played this formation against Forest, we thought it was only going to be used rarely, like against opponents who are going to give us like 90% possession and not move out their box. Then when we went away to Palace, like we were surprised we did this. And now I was talking about kind of getting the relationships going. And I do think part of this is to try and make all the new signings get on the pitch together. Obviously,
It
now
does feel
Timber's
like
not
that, doesn't
here.
it?
So it does feel like he's trying to get them all on the pitch, give them as many minutes as he can to just build those relationships with the rest of the squad.
As well as keeping Partey on the pitch as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. But my theory now is I don't
Go on.
think these matches are actually for what we thought. I don't think
Okay.
it was because of Forest because they wouldn't attack. I think this system and what he's trying to learn from them and get them to get comfortable with is for the games against Man City and Liverpool. I genuinely believe that he's trying to find this new system. And then even at the end of the game, when he just sent on every defender and took off every attacker, it was like he was trying to see like what it would be like with 4 centre backs almost. Like I just feel like he's trying to like see like, because when you look at say like Pep, right, we're talking about like how they control games against like crap opponents. But somehow, whenever City play a good team, like they did it with Newcastle, last week, they do it with us when we went to the Etihad. They pull out some tweak or something new. Whenever they play like a really good opponent, City, something just they tweak something they've been working on that no one's seen. And then like it's like a masterclass game plan against those big opponents who are not expecting it. And I wonder if this is what we're trying to do. Like we're trying to learn as much as we can before those games against like United and Tottenham and City. Like I almost feel like that's what we're preparing for.
Yeah.
Rather than that this system was purely because we thought we'd have the ball, let's get an extra attack on the pitch. I think that's a good way of looking at it, sure. But now that he's done it twice in a game where we were away from home, I'm not convinced that's the only reason. It might be part of the reason, but I think he's actually preparing for what you said, like just testing all the plan B, C, D, like figure out all the different relationships. Because when you speak to him about certain players like Havertz, and obviously he's played at 9, he's played at 8, he's played all over the pitch, and even Rice, he's basically said like, and the players themselves have said like, oh, like they've asked Rice, are you going to play 6 or 8? And it was like, I've basically been told like it will be based on where the best relationships are. Yeah. So it's almost like he wants to see all the best relationships, and then you will play wherever you have the best relationship with the 2 or 3 players around you. And that's what the system will be, I wonder.
Yeah, part of me,
that's just my thought.
Yeah, I can see that, but part of me is taking it even a step further and thinking, is this just our new system? And like thinking back to what I said about last season, I believe last season's system, even this year, I think when everyone's fit, it blitzes everyone, even City, even Liverpool, in my opinion, when everyone's fit, it wouldn't blitz them, but I still think we'd beat them. I think now he's going and looking at last season. There were a few games where we lost control, right? And I think this system is all about control. And it's kind of packing the midfield, just suffocation, what City do. And I wonder if that's where we're heading next in terms of last year. It was free-flowing, beautiful football, but there were periods in the game where we lost control. And I wonder if
like it was exciting to watch, but it felt like we only had control for like periods.
Exactly.
And then there'll be periods where like we were like getting clusterfucked like by the opponent, and then suddenly we take control. But when you look at City, people call their games boring, right? Because they have control.
This is where it's an aesthetics thing. So for me, like as a fan, I fucking loved last year's football because it was fun, it was engaging, it was fast, it was fluid. This one, I'm not particularly enjoying on the eye, but I can see its effectiveness. And like you look at, I remember that in the first half, I think first half hour, we had like 80% possession away at Palace. Forest, like what was the filter? We said it was like 80% or something, right? And I wonder if there's an element of he's just looking now at he's willing to sacrifice a bit of that fluidity, sexy football on the eye for just complete ball domination control. Just get the job done. 3 points, 3 points, 3 points. And like you say, some people
farming out results.
I wonder if that's what he's aiming towards now.
And on that note, Mike says in the chat, and this just kind of backs up your point quite considerably, I think. He says against Forest, we had 902 touches, more than any Premier League game in 2022-23 season. Against Palace, we completed 88% of our passes when it was 11v11, higher than in any full Premier League game last season. And despite playing half an hour with 10 men, we had more final third touches, 198, than in 13 of our 19 away games last season.
Yeah. And
so suddenly you look at that and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah.
That control of games seems you might be on the right track here.
And that's where I see where you're coming from, but I'm not sure it's a specific. Do you know what? I think it may be he believes this is the way you beat City and Liverpool, but I also think this is his maybe new way in thinking. This is how we just nullify the element of lacking control. Like what I should clarify about the start is, again, it's personal preferences, right? As a fan, I'm missing seeing the constant chances that we're plucking out of thin air. Whereas with this, it's like we'll have complete ball domination, but chances may not be as free flowing. But maybe
we
with
have to be
time, it is.
patient almost. Yeah, like it's kind of, and I do think once Zinchenko and Jesus are back, like we may see some changes because I don't see like how Zinchenko wouldn't play the inverted role from left back if he's fit and available. Obviously, I don't know how often he's going to be fit and available, but when he is, I think he's going to be key to us. And I think we saw it when he subbed on. We were 10 men.
Mate,
And the
that
moment
period,
Zinchenko came on, I
that
was in shock, bro. I was watching it and I was like, is this FIFA? I was like,
literally,
surely
yeah.
we're going to lose the ball. I was like, how are they doing this? Like, they were just taking the piss. Like, it was like Kivio, Zinchenko, Rice, Havertz, Jorginho. I was like, what the fuck am I watching?
That
like,
period was so beautiful. Like I was in the pub, like clapping. I was one of those saddos. Like it was unbelievable. That
it was honestly incredible. I thought, yeah, and I was like,
right,
oh, that's interesting. It felt like FIFA. Honestly, I was like, how are they finding each other with every pass? Everyone's doing one-touch passing. Like they're in tight spaces. They're overloading the entire left wing. Everyone's out there.
It felt like we had 13, not 10.
Yeah, honestly. So that was quite interesting. So that's what I was saying about the. But that's what I was saying about the 4 defenders when he finally had like 4 centre backs on. Part of me was wondering, like, what's he testing here? Is he seeing against like the big opponents again? Like, if you're winning like 2-0 and it's the last 10 minutes, is he thinking, fuck it, I'm just going to send on Jorginho as a false 9 and like every defender I have? Now, if you look at Arteta in the last 3 years, and I only realized this recently, I saw the stat. You know that most subs he's ever made while at this club are defensive subs. So he loves defenders. He's always buying defenders. He bought Ben White. He spent a lot on him. You know, they wanted Gabriel renewed. He was the first of the young crop to get renewed. Like he loves his defenders.
First signing as well, right, Gabriel? Like the first one.
He wanted like the left-footed centre-back. He wanted Maori, the left-footed centre-back before that as well. So like you can see he has a clear vision. And I think it's just taken years to get the quality of a squad that he can actually put his own footprint on.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to see how him and Pep like go this season because I think they're both gonna evolve again. I think both teams are gonna keep evolving. And
on
he said
that,
it,
by the
right?
way, I thought the subs were absolutely brilliant. Like because we were definitely under the cosh, and then when I saw them lining up, I was like, yeah, we've got this. As soon as I saw Zinchenko, Jorginho, I just thought, yeah, they ain't getting the ball, and they were just absolutely like 25% of Arteta. Is that a fact or is that him?
Yeah, stat bomb. Yeah, stat bomb.
Mike's stat helping today, loving it.
But honestly, I was so pleased to see that kind of because you know when you're 10 man and they had the ball a lot once we were down to 10 man, but as soon as those subs were made, I felt like he relieved so much pressure off our team.
Yeah.
And they said that I think the players said they felt the subs won the game.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, it did.
So that was exciting. Is there anyone else you want to comment on?
Just one person we have to call out that Saliba tackle. I know it came from a bad first touch, but still, like the recovery pace. Because like I don't know what you thought, but like I was in the pub watching it. I was like, oh fuck, he's just giving away a pen there because like the angle I was looking, and then I didn't see. Was it IU? He didn't appeal, right? I was like, okay, and then I saw the replay, and I was like, oh my.
When I saw the replay, I was like, he is like a millimeter, if not less, away from literally taking him out and not getting the ball. But just the precision, the athleticism, the ability to know when that precise last millisecond he can make that challenge is. I was like, my God, William, like you are something else. You are something.
Another guy I want to shout out, my guy Ben White. Because he never gets his praise. He is one of the most consistent players in the league. Like I will put it, he is top 3 underrated players in this league. He's so fucking good, man.
Have you seen the Holding interview about him?
No.
Rob Holding just done an interview saying that he's essentially like the maddest person in the entire squad, and he played with a grade 3 hamstring injury like last season in one of the games for 90 minutes, and that he thrives in pain and will play through pain and get adrenaline, and he will die and run through a brick wall for the team. That's basically what he said. And I'm like, oh, okay, these are Arteta's men. He wants these guys, like the guys who will die for him on the pitch.
Mate, like, you're going to see, like I'm calling it now, we're going to be in a Champions League away game in the knockout rounds, and we're going to be battling like we're going to be at war, and this team are going to come out through it. Like, this team are so mentally strong. Like, and I know I touched on, okay, mentality wise, I think we fell short last year, but I think they're going to use that, and I think their evolvement, the way they've evolved and growing now, I think we're a frightening team that are still not really fully respected, and we're going to shock a lot of people. This team's full of warriors, man.
I'm so happy about them. Just another stat from Mike. He is on fire today.
Come on, Mike.
All 4 subs had 100% pass completion. That is
FPL Mike
disgusting.
Halpin's just Albinio's burner account.
Now we know who Orbinio was all these years. Should we look at some of the stats of the game?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's have a little
Sorry,
look.
what was that stat that Mike just said?
So all 4 subs had 100% pass completion.
Is it 100? Wow.
So all of them, like Jorginho, Zinchenko, Kivior. I'm trying to think who the other sub was. Can you remember?
Did you say Jorginho, Kivior, Zinchenko?
Yeah, who else did he send on?
Did
Obviously,
Trossard come on?
I don't think he did. Who came on? I know that obviously Gabriel. Yeah,
I don't remember him.
Oh no, but Gabriel came on early. Was it? I was thinking he meant 4 subs like after we were, panning. I'm just having a quick look. I need to know for my own sanity who these players were.
Same. Apologies.
So
this is not
Zinchenko, Kivior, Jorginho, and yeah, it was Gabriel.
Oh, it was Gabriel.
Is that right?
Yeah, must be.
Yeah, I don't know about that, Mike. I think the Gabriel stat's wrong, but I'll give you that as a 75%. But we won't talk about that. You've got to be wrong sometimes.
He's never wrong. Our very own Albinio.
Yeah, everyone's human.
By the way,
at the end of the day.
Mike got me this shirt from Boca when he went on his travels.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if he's clocked it. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, there was comments in the chat about it.
Oh, is it?
So this game, so obviously this is the Markar stats on Twitter, his kind of graphs for cumulative expected goals and cumulative expected threats. If you're in the podcast, you will see the visuals. I suggest coming in at the 36-minute timestamp. The XG for Crystal Palace, the cumulative XG was 0.91. Ours was 1.74. The expected threat was 1.27 to 1.37 for us, which is obviously makes sense with the game state and them possessing the ball pretty much the entire last half an hour. Field tilt, 49% for them, 50% for us, pretty much split evenly. Defensive action high, 42 and 45. So really, I'm just having a look here. You don't... Oh my God, how is someone trying to call me on a different software? Noise? I've just killed the app that they're calling through so that it just dies. Like, but
is that someone at work? They're going to be watching. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I bet he's watching the stream right now, and I'm like, bro, like, I'm taking my lunch break, man. Like in my calendar, it says lunch break, no meetings. Like, I don't know why. Like, I asked for 1 hour a day to eat and stream. That's all I want to do with that time. But yeah, like you can see, obviously, like they didn't really do so much, right? It was only after the red card where their cumulative expected goals really start to rise, and there's a huge climb from about the 65th minute for their expected threat. Like before that, we were at like close to the 1.37 threat we created. Yeah. And they were like well down there. And then we just kind of defended. But I'm glad we got to see that kind of warrior-like defensive performance. Just give us an idea of what we're capable of when the time comes if we need to do it in another match.
100%. And this is where like stats from this game, you have to kind of apply a lot of context, because I think a lot of people would just kind of look at it in isolation and they won't, like you've just done, add the context of when the red card was, how that affects things. And if I'm being honest, statistically, I don't think you can take too much from this game as a result, because I think if it was 11v11 for the full 90, I think we probably would have... Well, I think the level of control would have remained because it was looking that way anyway. And then I think we probably would have created even more chances. Their threat wouldn't have been so high. But yeah, it's just always nice to kind of have one glance over and stuff like this. But I think when there's a red card with half hour to go, it's worth just caveating that. But yeah, not too much to read from that. I think the next one is more the fun one for me. Here we go. My wet dream of the passing networks. They're back.
So yeah, 38 minutes if you're on podcast and you want to see these sexy visuals. That is... Nketiah looks very good up there. He's furthest forward.
I think the biggest thing for me that I noticed that was different was, if you're looking at the build-up of this was more of like the 2-3 when we were building. And like you touched on earlier, Rice was very much like the sixth nucleus. Partey he did invert in bits, but I'd say it was the minority of this game rather than like what he was doing against Forest was very much him going quite a lot. Rice was shifting to the left, like you said. And this had a very clear structure of like, okay, White and Saliba, you're kind of going to be the first two. And then it's Partey, Rice and Tommy. And then you've got the pods kind of building in the kind of wider areas as well. And I just thought structurally, you could see it was spot on. You can always tell if your structure's spot on if you've actually got that level of control. And that's what we had, right? Like the dominant passing and stuff. And I just keep saying my pet peeve is the lack of chances that are coming. And I know it's going to come. I just wanted to see more. And the reason I like this passing network is for Arsenal, it's from minutes 1 to 66. So this is while it was 11v11. And look at that blueprint. Like that is, hang that in the Louvre. That is beautiful.
Well, I guess just in case the podcast listeners don't come to look at this, what I would say is like you've got obviously Saliba. Him and White are the only people from minute 1 to 66 in the passing networks that are even in our half.
Yeah,
so that's wild. Like you got Declan Rice sitting in the center circle in their half, and then you've got Thomas Partey playing like kind of on the right side, as you say, in their half, and Tomiyasu passing from their side as well on the left side. So like that is wild. Like that is actually wild. And I think one of the moments, I don't know if you remember it, we were talking about Ramsdale earlier. I'm sure they tried to do a quick counter and like just float a ball in the air. And Ramsdale basically was like there, a third of the way up the pitch, and just obviously got the ball and passed it. And he's clearly, I think he spoke about this in previous interviews, where he's had to learn after he's come to Arsenal to like, he can't just wait in goal if the rest of the team's like 60 yards away. Like he needs to, like, he's almost himself the last defender in case someone hoofs the ball up. He needs to preempt that and get there before their striker does. So that was quite fun, I thought, when I saw him kind of doing that little cameo out in the pitch, just to like, he just suddenly arrived because I was watching it on the TV cameras, right? And obviously it looked like the ball was going. I was like, oh shit, we have no one in our half and they're going to run onto it. And then the camera turns and you just see that Ramsdale's already there. Like, yeah, I expected this, guys. Don't worry, I've got this covered. So that was nice.
Just clock one thing we haven't actually spoken about was the actual goal, right?
I know, this is unlike us.
We spoke about how we got there because of Nketiah and the good pass from Martinelli. But Odegaard obviously took the penalty. And any thoughts on that?
What do you think? Because I said this in pre-season. I thought every penalty he took, and we took a lot of them in those kind of friendlies that somehow had, penalty shootouts despite like the game not being a draw, but we got a lot of practice in those. And like I just felt like when I watched Odegaard take those penalties in the preseason, I was honestly really impressed. I was like, he is so confident. He's oozing confidence. He's not giving anything away. And we know how great and technical he is. And I did feel that, I know Saka, even when he scored his penalty, when I watched him, I always felt like in the most recent one he took, when I watched him, I was like, he scored, but I don't know if that was just fortunate. I don't think it was a great penalty either way.
I'm so glad you said this, because I've had an unpopular opinion that I've kind of been scared to. Like, I've said it to my friends privately and stuff. So I think Saka potentially gets a bit lucky in penalties. And okay, so let me take you through my thought process.
Yeah.
I never feel like they're actually in the corner. I feel like that there's been one, like the Liverpool one I remember was a great one. But generally, I feel like they're not really in the corner. But then I'm flipping it and thinking, okay, but is a great penalty one where because the keeper never goes the right way, right? And is that part of the art in terms of, okay, it's not in the corner, but his body is able to confuse the keeper so they go the wrong way. So I can't, I don't know. But same as you, I just never feel quite.
Something just felt off. Like whenever I see him stand, like I'm obviously glad he took the ones he did since the England miss. And it was great to see him take the first one after the England miss, score it, like, take that kind of weight off his shoulder and like just bring back some confidence. But I'm also not convinced whether Odegaard's actually on penalties permanently. Because what I really loved is the interview quotes made me feel like we might actually rotate penalty takers so the opposition can never know or prepare ever for who it will be.
Do you see what Arteta said about it as well?
Well, he said he had no idea and they decided themselves on the pitch. He's such a control freak. I find that hard to believe.
Same.
Yeah, like I just find that so hard to believe. But then when you listen to Saka as well, Saka's like, Martin said like, we took a lot of them in the preseason cups and I didn't miss any of mine. And he said, so I asked Saka, can I take them? He just said, I just, at the time, I was like, we've taken loads recently. Because Odegaard doesn't have a history of, like in professional games, not friendlies, like having taken a lot of penalties. No. Someone like a Havertz or a Rice, they have way more penalty taking experience. But for some reason, something about the way he took them in preseason, I remember I said this on Net That Hall a few weeks ago, and Gabe was also of the view that Saka will come off penalties, and he called that right.
Wow.
But he was
okay.
convinced it would be Havertz because he's like a literal, like, he's a
penalty
specialist at that, right?
Yeah.
And at the time, I'd unpopularly said, like, I think Odegaard might take it,
Wow. Come
And
on.
so I'm glad I got that part right. Now,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's permanent
So
because it could be next time,
yeah.
like Havertz takes one, Rice takes one, Saka takes one again, Jesus. Like, I just think they're saying slightly confusing things, both Arteta and Martin,
To confuse
because they want to
everyone
make
else.
sure future opponents have absolutely no idea who's going to take
The
it.
level of unpredictability on every facet of football for Arsenal, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I do wonder if that's what those quotes are leaning towards. So I'm not sure if Odegaard will continue to take them. So from an FPL point of view,
I was
like,
just going to
if
ask
you've
you,
got him
FPL
just for
lens.
that. Yeah, because obviously I've got Martinelli, and like, the question is, and I've got Saka, and then you ask yourself, if Saka isn't on penalties and the team isn't so fluid right now, could you go from Saka to Odegaard? Yeah, and like, is it that's an option? But part of me thinks I still want to see more. And like, I'm not looking to make these kind of sideways moves like before Fulham home, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, and I should me saying I don't want him is very reactionary. I'd still want him, but of course, if he's potentially not on pens, that does change things. And if I would not be surprised if we get a penalty against Fulham, Saka steps up and takes it. So I'm as confused.
Yeah, just to confuse people. Like, honestly, if we get one against Fulham and then he takes it, I don't think that even then guarantees he takes the following one.
Basically, I do think it's going to be shaken around a little bit, and I think you'll see, like, if Odegaard's on 2 goals and on a hat trick, and we're 2-0 up at home, then yeah, sure, he may get it. But I don't know, like, I think there's going to be a bit more unpredictability.
I'm
around
surprised they didn't give it to Havertz, but maybe that's a good thing. I know he's a specialist, but part of me was thinking he gets so much stick for goals and assists, right? But like, that's not the role he's been having to perform in these last 2 games. He's been like a duel guy. He's winning the most duels, I think 8 in both games.
Duel guy.
Yeah, duel. So he's winning his duels, but I did think maybe they'd give it to him. But then equally, like at 0-0, I think the captain,
he stepped up.
He stepped up, and it's what Tommy's saying, right? Like, compared to Saka, Odegaard just looks so confident taking it.
Yeah, he did.
Like, when I looked at him and he did quite a big run up, if I remember correctly, like, part of me was like, I really hope he doesn't just like smash this. I was like, why is he running so far? I was like, I beg you, I was like, you're such a technician. I was like, please, man, just fuck with the goalkeeper's head and just place this perfectly. Come on. I was so scared, man, because obviously I had Captain Salah in FPL as well, and he fucking missed his. So, and it's the same thing with Salah, man. When I saw him and the camera zoomed in on Salah before he took the pen, I always have this fucking vibe. I'm telling you, he missed one last season when I captained him too.
Well, and you felt
I just see the camera look at them, and then I see them like the way they're breathing, and like just something felt off. And I'm like, no, allow it. But when I looked at Odegaard, I was like, no, he looks very composed here. And I think part of it was because Saka held the ball and everyone thinks he is the penalty taker. So he was getting hounded and circled by all the opponents. It's like what Trippier does for Newcastle, where like, he holds the ball and they all go and harass him to try and put him off. And then last second you hand it off.
Yeah. So like, if someone was to ask you right now from an FPL lens, should I keep... What's the question? Do you think Saka will stay on pens?
I wouldn't want him to, but I don't think Arteta or him care. I think he might still keep them eventually.
Yeah, okay.
And just kind of give them out here and there, game state dependent, as you say. But in terms of like, should you keep Saka? Like, I just think it's wild to think of selling him at home to Fulham.
I'm keeping Havertz before Fulham.
Yeah, of course. I think obviously,
I think he'll score
afterwards. I'm excited. We've been calling his brace for 2 weeks now. Hopefully, this is the week.
It's going to come out with like 7 goals. Come on.
I guess we'll do that in the preview on Friday morning, right? Where we talk about our prediction for the lineup against Fulham and what we're going to do now with Timber injured, Tomiyasu banned. Like,
Zinchenko's back, yeah.
Yeah, so that will be interesting to see whether we do truly stick with this new system or go back, or even try a new one that we've yet to see yet.
Yeah.
Who knows?
1-7-2.
Yeah, exactly. Is there any other players or topics you wanted to touch on, or I think we've covered most things.
I think we've covered it all. Yeah.
Cool. Let me just put the thank you slide up to thank all of you in the chat for tuning in today. It's been a pleasure chatting to you all in the chat. Enjoyed it. It's been very interactive.
Thanks, guys. Lots of you in today. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for being with us on this Wednesday morning. We will be back on Friday around 10 a.m. to preview the Fulham home game.
You're going to that game, right?
Yeah, I'm so excited, man. My first game of the season. I've not been back for a while now, so I've finally seen this in my Apple Wallet on the new NFC pass tickets, because you can't obviously use screenshots anymore. You have to actually like have the physical ticket on your digital pass. But yeah, I'm really excited to go, and then I'm flying to Lebanon on the Sunday. So Friday's episode will be my last episode for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
And then Clayton is going to be doing some of the kind of the reviews and previews for the game week 3 and 4 while I'm gone. Yeah, so hopefully we'll announce some guests at some point too. But yeah, well, they're saying it's Clayton off to the Ritz with Suj.
I don't slum it anymore. Up with the big boys now.
Exactly, man. But yeah, thank you all.
So wild, man.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask you more about it on Friday's episode because I didn't even get to ask you about it today. But well, thank you everyone. If you enjoyed the episode, please do hit that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Otherwise, we will see you next time. And
nice one.
yeah, up
Cheers,
the
everyone.
Arsenal.
Up the Arsenal.
Come on, you Gunners.